Hey there, welcome to ATL and 29, a podcast that looks at the NBA from the starting point of Atlanta. My name is Kevin Chouinard. I'm here with Tyler Jones and Glen Willis. We're recording on a Sunday night after a Saturday win over the Hornets and a week full of the Pelicans, the Bucks, and the Lakers. So I guess DeJounte, Giannis, and LeBron. It's going to be an interesting week coming up ahead. And I guess maybe we should talk a little bit about the win over the Hornets, kind of a just get it done kind of affair. What were your takeaways from that game, Tyler?
Um, Honestly, probably one of the bigger ones is that Trey, whether it's by design or not, like he's leaning a lot on Jalen to really be the guy. And I felt against the Hornets, he after like a bad start, uh he really just kind of took over the game on both ends of the floor and was really more of the initiator for the Hawks and getting them to point A to point B, if that makes sense. Whereas Trey was more of a table setter. You know, he Trey's been a lot more of the floor general Chris Paul role, whereas he's not. I don't either. He's not looking to score or he's trying to conserve energy. Either way, he's just not uh, looking to put up. He's not looking for his opportunities where they might be. Where instead he's relying a lot more on his teammates to finish possessions. But I thought overall Jalen had a very mature game after the start. So that's what I took away from that overall. But the Hornets were uh, their coach for some reason I'm blanking on his name
Charles
got
Lee.
has him yeah, has him playing great basketball. And so it doesn't surprise me that the game was close, even though the Hornets were missing a lot of players. Like I don't know, for whatever reason, the Hornets and the Hawks, that's just a tough matchup, regardless of who's on the floor for the Hornets, for the Hawks. So it's not terribly surprising that the game's close, but I thought the Hawks kind of settled in and were the better team overall. So that's what was more important.
Glenn?
Yeah, I mean the defense was a mess in the first quarter. Screen navigation was bad, and then I don't remember. I think a little bit before the end of the first quarter they got to some switching, and they really relied on switching. The only thing that weren't switching at times was Dyson on Brandon Miller. They didn't want to switch him off of Miller. Everything else was pretty much switching, and that helped them chase guys off the 3-point line better. And I mean, in this matchup, the Hornets really didn't have anyone available that can take you off the dribble, right? They didn't have anyone that was playing, that could really do that. Um, they still their shot making was still, I think, kind of impressive. They were to generate some decent shot quality. But once the Hawks started chasing them off the 3-point line, and then once like Jalen became a force defensively at the rim, about after his first rotation, the rest of the game. But it is interesting to look. They had seven guys that had between 9 to 12 field goal attempts. Trey only had nine. Trey only had 5 assists. I guess he kept that streak that Bob and Neat keep talking about going. But Jalen had 20 points on 12 shooting possessions, 9 assists, and that just kind of goes to show that they can. I think week over week they're able to more reliably steer offense through him in a way they weren't the first, say, 2 weeks of the season. And that is a big factor for where this team will end up offensively eventually.
Tyler mentioned Trey's offensive game, and how concerned are you with how teams might approach guarding Dyson Daniels? Because there's been a lot of 3 for 10s, 3 for 14s. And in this game in particular, it felt like the Hornets weren't really paying him a whole lot of mind. They were oftentimes guarding him with Mark Richards, Nick Richards. No, what am I doing? Nick Richards,
Yeah, yeah.
Mark Williams, Nick Richards. Get that right. Yeah, so it was Nick Richards guarding him a lot of the time, and that was basically just him sticking himself in the paint as like a zone almost, and that's going to make things harder for Trey in particular. how much, number one, how concerned are you about teams maybe seeing that and trying to guard Daniels that way? And two, what's going to be the solution for the Hawks in those kind of situations?
Well, the short-term solution was just running Dyson Trey pick and rolls. If they're going to play him with a center, then Trey's just going to take the 24-foot three-pointer instead of a 28-footer. Like that quickly became a non-starter. Then the Hawks
No,
just
they
started
they
using.
they didn't
I
they
mean,
didn't go away from it.
they had to guard Dyson up floor more, and so then the Hawks. Like I'm gonna be honest, I didn't think the Hornets were that good defensively. I thought the Hawks were just sloppy in their execution on offense. But it is a concern that Dyson's not making the shots, and it's he has it's like a it's like he has to keep shooting, but you can see like every shot that doesn't go in bothers him in a way that it wouldn't bother like a Dylan Brooks, if that makes sense. Where like Dylan Brooks would not care if he goes over 12. He's going to shoot the 13th time from three. And that's kind of the mindset Dyson kind of needs to tap into a little bit more because he is a little bit too passive at times, but at the same time he needs to be more mature as a finisher. Though he finished great against the Hornets. Like again, he just needed to attack more uh when his opportunity instead of like trying to pass out because they had a couple 24-second violations, shot clock violations because he's looking to set somebody up when he has the mismatch. He's being guarded by the worst defender, and he has a good floater. He has when he's uh, comfortable, like he can get to the rim and finish, with a strong layup with either hand. But there is a lack of maturity there in his offensive game. So I think this would be a good learning experience for him. But like, if teams, I hope teams guard him in the center, like please, because Trey will just eat that up. Like Trey's going to be the first one to notice that and be like, all right, Dyson, you set the screen. Dyson sets great screens. I'm just going to take these 25-foot three-pointers instead of 28. So like, that's a winning strategy for me. Like when teams do that, I just look, that's when Trey has to be aggressive. Like he can't be he has to be like, all right, it's my time to take some shots. I thought a couple times he did that to knock the Hornets to get the Hornets to play Dyson a little bit more fair. But I mean, it is a concern. But Dyson's defense is so great. Like I don't know. He's got such a long leash. When you're that special of a defender, kind of doesn't matter that much, especially when you have a playmaker of Trey Young's caliber. Like he'll make it work. But Dyson does need to. I mean, just like how Ricochet, we talked about it, Ricochet a lot. Like he just got to keep shooting. You know, he just got to keep shooting and stay aggressive. But it, I, it is a mental game where it's like you're missing shots you could make. In a practice setting, but then in the game when you're wide open, you're like you can't make the step in three-pointer. And this is a new role for him, and so hopefully he can grow from it. But like I'm not concerned about this game. Like his defense was still fantastic. You just gotta live with it. But that's something the Hawks are going to have to be aware of. That they might have some games they may have to pull them out if it gets too bad, like take them out the game.
I mean, I think there are going to be some games where, you mentioned, oh, well, that's just going to be a 24 foot three-pointer for Trey. I mean, I think there are going to be some games where that turns into just a center being part of a blitz, like, and then you're going to have to play through Dyson because he's going to be wide open on he's going to be the short roll man, or he's going to be the pick and pop, whatever it is. You're going to have to play through him because they're just going to blitz Trey out of that look.
Well, I mean, when they blitz Trey, Bison is better in the short roll than he is popping to the 3-point line, right? So,
Absolutely,
Yeah.
so
absolutely.
roll out the red
That's why I'm
carpet for the Dyson and short roll, like, and
please play him as center. Please,
yeah.
like that's what he's good at right now. That's like his best thing. Like just that short roll, get downhill, make the decision on the catch, on the bounce. Like that's what he does best at. When you're like literally, if he's bringing the ball up the floor and you're not guarding him at all, that's where it's like, uh oh. I have to take this shot here. That's where he gets into trouble. So
Right.
that is a concern. Like if they're gonna blitz Trey's just gonna get the ball in his hand. Dyson, and I trust Dyson to make the right decision.
Yeah, it's funny. This was the first game I can recall the defense just completely ignoring him at the 3 point, like not even reacting to him at the 3 point line. And I don't think, and it's kind of funny, but when you have a shooter who probably not the most confident shooter, right? Feels like a guy closing at you forces you to kind of shoot in rhythm more than like just like he was
Yeah.
he was slow and deliberate getting into his shooting motion, and that looks like a shot attempt that has no rhythm to it at all. And so that's something they got to figure out too. Is like even when you're wide open, like don't have speed into your shooting form. Just get right into it like you normally would. But it's a mental thing, for sure. We've talked about it before. This is the first time ever Dyson has an offensive role that's scaling up, and they're I think they're trying to do their best to get him into actions and touches that align to his strengths. But they also want him to develop a more well-rounded game too, but that's just going to take time.
Yeah. All the things that everybody said kind of make sense, but it all at the same time, like the cumulative effect is it's just one more thing that's happening that's making offense more difficult for Trey, which is, just mildly concerning, but also just I think it makes it more physically taxing too. So it's just I don't know. It spirals a little bit, and while
Yeah,
there are solutions, I think it just makes life more difficult in certain ways. Especially when you're trying to play 82 games and you want him to have rhythm and you want him to not be so taxed physically. I don't know.
I'll say I thought Trey was taking a back seat this game completely. So I don't know how physically taxed he was, especially on the offensive end. He wasn't forced like he wasn't. It's been a really odd stretch from Trey. We've talked about the lack of physicality, but like the Hornets were not guarding him with some elite defenders, in isolation or out in front, and he's just like if there's a double coming, he's auto getting the ball. It's like he's making the right decision. But Trey is at his best when he forces you into the decision he wants you to make. Like, oh, you're coming to double. I'm not passing it out. I know you want me to get the ball out of my hand. I'm gonna dribble around this, bad defender that you're coming to trap me with, and then I'm gonna now we got a 4-on-3, but I'm the decision maker. So and he's not been doing that. Well, he didn't do that against the Hornets. I thought against the Cavaliers, it's one of the things. Second night of the back to back, I thought Trey was fine with. Uh, like I said, I thought he was very good at being the organizer, being the play general, the floor general. But like this game, other games maybe, but especially this stretch where the Hawks have been shooting it well against the Cavs the last couple games, I thought Trey's looked pretty good and pretty comfortable overall. So I'm not too concerned about it, but we'll see if more teams decide to be this strident on guarding Dyson this way. That might mean Okongwu needs to just play a lot more, even more than what he has been, because I thought just Okongwu's additional ability to play make really helped the Hawks down the stretch kind of close it out against them.
What do you make of your Group C champs? Anything
Hang the
from the
banner.
Cleveland game that stands out?
Their
Uh,
defense was
yeah, yep.
fan- fantastic. Like the Cavs weren't making shots, but the Hawks were limiting their 3-point attempts, and they made the Cavaliers look like a small basketball team, which they are. They were very. I thought defensively, uh, one of the Cavs' biggest advantage is that they play two bigs, and so they expect to get have the offensive rebound advantage, have the size advantage where Mobley can just bully smaller players. But you know, Mobley tried it a couple times, and it looked the possessions where it worked. He got some dunks and it looked good, but overall the Hawks were just like contesting him at the rim on his shot attempts. and they weren't leading the 3 pointers. Meanwhile, Dyson Daniels was just all over Donovan Mitchell. And Zachary Ricochet on Darius Garland was like a problem. Like like the Hawks were just matching up very well with the Cavaliers. And then on the other end, the Cavs just don't have wing size players, you know? And so I
Well,
thought
they're missing a
Bogey,
couple, right, due
well,
to
yeah,
injury.
yeah, but
Struess and Wade.
yeah, but even still, like, you know, it was just so easy for DeAndre Hunter in particular just to um, get to his spots, get downhill. Nobody could match up. Even if those two were back, I don't know if they can match up physically with what DeAndre Hunter brings to the table. And Hunter's been throughout his career. Hunter has been good at um, at the pick and pop game. Like that's kind of like one of his best things, like catch and shoots. And so I
It's
think
a
it's good.
historic moment.
Yeah, so it's good that the Hawks are.
Tyler praises DeAndre Hunter.
I mean, he's making shots,
I'm
but
teasing.
but like it's what he does best. Like um, getting him open shots on the perimeter, through ball movement, through man movement, and like he's doing a very good job of knocking shots down and playing the right way and playing quickly. He gets in trouble when he over dribbles sometimes, but overall, like offensively, it's hard to complain too much about what he's doing. And like his shot making combined with Bogey's really been the difference. Like if you want to be like, okay, what's changed since the beginning of the year is those two guys. They're legitimate shot makers. And so that's not something the Hawks had at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I thought another big thing was I don't think they shot. I think they shot less than 50% on twos. Um, in the first game that they played, they were looks like let's see, they were 30 out of 51 on twos in the second game. That's a big turnout. They were cutting, they were more active, moving off the ball, they put more pressure on the Cleveland defense from the weak side. You got a few kind of back screens, getting a guy free. So I just thought they were more active in the offensive floor, and I think and they put up a 50, 40, 80, shooting performance against a team that's better than league average on defense, and so I thought that adjustment was what helped them get to 117. The first game I didn't. I was like, man, the first half was a boat race, scoring wise. I was like, the Hawks can't match and they ended up doing it. In this game, it really was making shots, setting your defense, and then I mean everything on defense really flowed from Donovan Mitchell couldn't do anything with Dyson. He could not
Nope.
do anything with Dyson, right? And that forced the ball to Cleveland secondary playmakers, and they do miss Struess. Struess is good in that role, and Wade is pretty competent in that role too. They didn't, ball finds Okoro. Okoro doesn't really have much of an offensive bag. He's on the floor for defense. And they were, forcing Mobley to take shots above, sometimes at the top of the key, and Mobley was pretty dominant in that. But I felt like it was one of those things. It's like, okay, if Mobley's gonna get 25 points on us and Garland and Mitchell are struggling, I think we're gonna be okay. Was the thought process for the Hawks on defense. So I thought it was like from to play the same team in 2 games in a row and come out with counter adjustments that were that strong and the team executed them well. I thought that was really impressive.
Yeah, the Hawks were, especially in the second game, were hyper focused on attacking George Niang on defense. Like they were not going to just allow somebody as slow as Niang to get away with being the low man or being having to guard uh anybody. Like the Hawks were just like whoever Niang's guarding, that guy sets the screen. We're gonna get the switch and we're just gonna keep going at them until the Cavs have forced them to make a decision. And like the Cavs were in a situation where they needed a Coro for defense. Uh, they tried to go with Karis LeVert, but like LeVert offensively, he's better, but the Hawks are comfortable with putting Trey on Karis LeVert. Like they don't care. Go ahead, eat up. And so it really came down to, okay, is Darius Garland going to make every 33 step back, every 28-foot step back 3-pointer he takes over a contest? Like, and the I thought process wise defensively the Hawks were like, we're we're taking away your driving kick game. We're not letting you guys get middle anymore. We're not letting you guys just pass it willy nilly over us. Like, you're not going to be able to just pass it to Jarrett Allen in the short roll to make a decision. I really thought the Hawks were just on point defensively that entire game, and some of what they did I thought carried over to the Hornets game where uh one thing they were Jalen Johnson was really like adamant about was just staying as the low man, like because the center would switch up high, and Jalen would before the play would happen be like, "I'm the low man. Whoever the center switched with, that player, I'm scramming you out before the plays even like develop. Like, you don't even look at me. Go to the corner because that's where your man is." Like, and I thought Jalen really took um ownership of the defense against the Hornets, and so that was out that and that's what they were doing against the Cavs as well. So it carried over, and so like that's good to see from Jalen, like that level of leadership ability, because that's what he can do. Like Jalen, there's no reason why he can't be one of the better defenders in the game. I understand he has a bigger role overall, but like there's some like high process IQ stuff that we've seen him do. He just doesn't do it as often as you would like. But I mean, as an aside, like Jalen was just having a heck of a start of the season. Like, Brad thinks he might be borderline all star, or he said that he's playing at that level. And I tend to agree. Like, Jalen's playing incredible basketball, and I think he can still get even better.
You kind of preempted my next question, but let me put it to Glenn first, since you were just talking about it. But like, what's the difference between the way Jalen is playing now, December 1, compared to where he was, let's say, a month ago, no, November 1, when the season was just getting started and he was maybe not as settled?
I think he's slowing down a little and actually reading the defense, right? First 4 or 5 games, he would just drive right into literally four bodies in the paint and try to, use, whatever he could to kind of shoot over that. And now he's actually reading the floor and making the right decision. Small guy at the paint, going to go to the rim. Doesn't always have to be a forceful player or a dunk. He has such great hands and good touch when he's on balance, right? That he's can score in there. So I just think the game's slowing down for him. I mean, you think about what he did last year, and with Trey, especially in games with Trey and Dejounte played. I mean, Jalen just didn't get any of the reps he's getting this year. Like they just weren't there last year, and it looks like they trust him. They're empowering him. I just think the game is slowing down for him, and he's trusting his read, his trusting ability to kind of see the floor, make the play, and I think a lot of it is, just the team patting him on the back when things aren't going well. Hey, you got this. You can do this. Keep going, keep going, keep going. And when you have that kind of support and empowerment, it's easier to kind of play through mistakes. But to me, it just looks like a guy who the game is slowing down for him. The more reps he's seeing, the more confident he's getting what he's seeing in the decision making.
He's also a much confident shooter. Uh, he's letting it go for three, and also taking some mid rangers when it's like he's not forcing the drive is the biggest thing. Where if it's not there, he's comfortable. Like, okay, I'll just take the 3-pointer. I trust my shot, and that's kind of helped his process a bit more. He's just been playing a more mature offensive game, and I mean he's been like I said, he's been incredible. Uh, I mean, there's just not that many basketball players that can do what he does. Like, just you know, numbers aren't everything, but 20, 10, and 5 uh is pretty good. Like, there's only literally only like three other guys who are doing that right now this season. And the efficiency is starting to come up. He's so I just think overall, like, the best is yet to come with Jalen. So it's really good to see him kind of take ownership into this team and into this role right now.
Yeah, he's at 37% on threes now. with a hot stretch. It's hard to know if he'll stay there or not. But to your point, like he's not hesitating. He's letting it go, and they're going in right now.
Yeah, when he has space, he's just very methodical. Like it's the same every time. Like you were talking about Dyson reacting to the extra space that he had, and it looked like it affected his rhythm. Like with Jalen, that's not really, at least at the moment, not really a concern. Like when he has space, he just takes the same shot every time, and it looks pretty good. But with
And he's
we've got a
15 for
fight in
30.
the Rockets Thunder game.
Oh, Dylan Brooks is playing that game, huh? Yeah, Jalen's. I think it looks like he's 15 for 30 in the last six. Is that, yep,
Uh,
15 for 30 last six games on the 3-point line.
yeah,
So, oh look, Dylan Brooks is right in the middle of it with Kenrich. Surprise, surprise.
I mean that's why the DeJounte trade was important, right? Is like you got an elite player in his role in Dyson Daniels, but at the same time, what you did was you really traded to make Jalen Johnson your second focal point,
It took
where
two
he,
years
he
to get
couldn't
this
have done
because,
that.
yeah, because I mean, as much as I value what John Collins did, step one was clearing that position for Jalen, right? But last year it still was not optimal in terms of letting Jalen ramp up in a role, and maybe Jalen wasn't quite ready.
Might not have
I
been
mean,
ready. Yeah.
right? But it took 2 years to kind of get to the point where he's now really doing really really well in that role.
I've asked a couple of Hawks players this question this week, but with Jalen, he's starting, and then he's usually one of the first one or two players that gets out, usually with Zach, and then he comes back in playing with Kobe, Bogey, DeAndre, Onyeka. Like he's usually the fifth person in those lineups. How is his role different when he's that fifth with the four bench players compared to what he does when he's starting?
He's initiating the offense. On a lot of possessions, he's initiating the offense. And I mean, and if you're starting the first 3 games or so, Kobe came back. Kobe was basically off ball, like not running anything. And now it looks like it's a bit moving more towards 50-50 between Kobe and Jalen,
Yeah.
which I think is good because Kobe, I mean, I think we all think Kobe needs those reps. Kobe can't just stand in the corner. He's not going to develop as a guard just standing in the corner. But Jalen's initiating a lot. And I think that's for him to be able to initiate and produce offense with Trey off is huge. It's huge. Like last year, they didn't really want him on the floor without Trey, ever. You know, and this year he's basically running, slow running the offense in those minutes that Trey is off, and it's such a big asset to have him be able to do that.
And what's helped both him and Kobe is like a Kongwu DHO action. Like he's been, especially him and Kobe, like they've been really good at getting. Like Okongwu's been really good at setting the screen for Kobe and getting him downhill to his favorite to and it to an advantageous driving position, and then he's just getting easy layups. And like that's it's simple offense, but it really does a good job of keeping the engine moving while Trey's off the bench. Like Kobe's kind of finding himself now these last couple games, and that's really because we've talked about a lot of quote unquote what's gone wrong with the Hawks. You looked at it, it was like when Trey's off the floor, it's a disaster, and when Jalen's off the floor, it's a disaster. So it's good that Kobe is really um, starting to play better, starting to find some confidence, and it helps that he plays alongside playmakers like Okongwu and Jalen who can get him those easy buckets where he doesn't have to make every decision on the offensive side of the floor. Like it's a simpler game for him. And then uh, and going back to Jalen, like yeah, it's just it's simple stuff with Jalen. Like it's like okay, they're pressuring Kobe up the floor. I'm going to be the one to initiate the offense. Like I'm going to bring the ball up the floor, no problem. So like, and it's not an issue. Like nobody's going to pressure his guy's not going to be able to pressure him up the floor. So It's been a big like if you want to be like what's the difference between the last couple of weeks and now is the shot making of Bogey and DeAndre, and then the the better play of Kobe and this bench unit with Jay.
Those go hand in hand.
Yeah,
Um, New Orleans comes comes to Atlanta tomorrow. It looked like tonight they had DeJounte guarding Jalen Brunson. Is he going to be if he's in the backcourt with McCollum, is he going to be the one guarding Trey tomorrow? What do you expect from this game tomorrow night?
I don't know who's
Yeah,
playing for the
I know.
Pelicans. Like,
I mean,
Yeah, I
they've
need to look
got
at their injury report. It's
yeah, it's they. I think they're starting like Missy. Ingram has been out, so it's Trey Murphy, CJ McCollum, DeJounte.
yeah, I guess DeJounte's gonna have to guard Trey, but like with Trey, is Trey gonna is he interested in scoring that night, or is he going to be more just be the atypical point guard? Because DeJounte could be wasting his time. Like the uh
it,
Jalen, I think is going to be the bigger issue for them because I don't know if they have, especially without Zion. Like I don't know if they have the size to match up with Jalen at all.
and Herb Jones did not play today, but I don't see any indicator yet for tomorrow. That's how they usually go when he plays. It's
Yeah,
around.
her. Yeah,
Okay. All right.
Tough
Well,
stretch of games. I mean, it's a challenging stretch of games coming up, and it's a chance to see if some of the improvement is sticking or not. I still expect there to be some up and down. These will be different challenges. But they're playing some better teams here in the next week and a half. After Pelicans, probably not in the same group as the rest. Bucks, Nuggets with Jokic and all that sort of stuff. But it's going to be an important stretch for them to maybe if they can go 3-2 in the next five or so, that would be helpful.
yep. Should be an interesting one, especially that Bucks game. They were there. The Hawks and Bucks both kind of heating up at the same time, and they've always been an interesting matchup. So that'll be an interesting one.
Indeed.
All right. Well, I guess we'll say goodnight, Bob, and do this again soon. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Good night, Bob.
good night, Bob.